Understanding Suicide Loss. I'm Lisa Oligas, and this is Newsmakers. In this edition, we look at the pain for those exposed to suicide and how the holidays can be a difficult time for suicide survivors. We will also learn about the myths surrounding suicide. It is not more common during winter months, but there are always risk factors, and we will delve into how to spot those risks, especially for those who are college age. And we will discuss suicide prevention. In 1999, Senator Harry Reid introduced a resolution for a National Survivors of Suicide Day. Reid's own father died by suicide in 1972. Now, that day became known as Survivor Day, which falls on the Saturday before Thanksgiving because holidays can be a difficult time for suicide survivors. It has been adopted worldwide and is now known as the International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day, and it is recognized by the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We begin our discussion today with a member of the AFSP, a woman who worked for the Missouri Department of Mental Health for 28 years with a degree in social work and a master's in public administration, and is a suicide survivor. Jackie Christmas. Jackie, thank you for being here on Newsmakers.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Well, so tell us how you came to be involved with AFSP. Tell us your story.
Okay. My work was the first thing that where I was exposed to suicide. So in 2008, I became the fatality review coordinator for the Missouri Department of Mental Health. And we focused on looking at preventable deaths and what within our own system we could change to help with that. And so then in 2012, I lost my son. He was 27 at the time, or as we say, forever 27. It became more personal then. I felt that I could do more. We can all do more. And around 2018, I attended my first walk. And that year, I actually attended 3 walks.
Wow.
It was Joplin's first, and I went to Cape Girardeau and Farmington to attend their walks. And I mean, once you find your people, because you feel, as a loss survivor, you often feel isolated and alone. No one knows what I'm going through or how I'm feeling. And then,
let's talk about some of those other emotions too. I mean, you know, are there worries about that person themselves, they feeling guilty? I mean,
yes.
I actually know a family where a child committed suicide and then the parent did as well. What are some of the emotions that you go through, and why is that support network so important? Yes,
you go through the normal grief, the anger and the sadness, but then you also have the guilt. And is there something I could have done to have prevented this? But you know, we only know what we know at that moment.
Right.
And so it took me a few years really to grasp. Even though I was in the field and I was looking at preventable deaths all day, every day, it took me a minute to grasp that my son may have died by suicide.
Yeah.
We try to make meaning out of things. We are constantly asking why. And, you know, coming into the holidays, people need to know that you need to set boundaries. It's okay to set boundaries. And you've heard other bereaved people talk about the new normal. And so you don't have to do all those old traditions. Now, there may be some that you would like to continue, but you want to look at possibly making new traditions. You may not want to celebrate the holidays at all, and that's okay. You know, it's up to each individual person. And I refer to what we call the Grief Bill of Rights. And so, you know, you have the right to find out as much as you can about what happened. You have the right to question others. In my case, my son had been in and out of treatment services for about 10 years. And I was angry. I was mad at the school system. I was mad at the therapist, at the treatment facilities, the doctors, and myself.
Yeah.
You know, that's what that guilt is that anger turned inward.
Right. That's tough. So there are a number of myths about suicide, often repeated, and one is that the average, about 6 people are impacted by someone's suicide. But there are other reports saying it's far greater than that.
It's far greater than that. Research done by Dr. Julie Searle at the University of Kentucky, and it was then published in the American Association of Suicidology's Journal of Life-Threatening Behaviors, shows 135 people are exposed to a single suicide.
Wow.
52 people will have a short-term disruption of life. 25 will have a long-term disruption of life, and 11 will be devastated. So think about it.
That's a lot.
So, you know, you lose a child, even a young adult. There's parents. There's hopefully 2 sets of grandparents. There's aunts and uncles. There's cousins.
Friends at school.
Friends at school, best friends, you know, the favorite coach or you know, but you have connections with often more than 11 people.
Yeah.
But so they were able to document, though, about 11 people will be absolutely devastated.
And how important is it for those survivors to get some kind of help, talk to someone, consider counseling?
I think it's very important. Of course, we want people to start with their doctor. Go see your doctor, and that doctor can help you make a treatment plan that could include medication. It could include therapy. It could include peer-to-peer support, which is what AFSP does.
Right.
So we have a program called Healing Conversations, where we match a newly bereaved person with someone who had a similar loss. Child loss, spouse loss, sibling loss.
Because you always feel like people can't relate to me, but there are people out there who can relate. So another myth is that suicide increases in the winter months. We said that's not true. Tell us about the University of Pennsylvania's findings. I mean, summer actually has higher rates than the holidays.
Yes, that's correct.
So tell us about why it's important to dispel that myth.
Right, because, I mean, we just always think about depression. Some of us suffer from that seasonal depression. I personally use a therapy light at home. And my daughter owns a tanning salon, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's not necessarily, in winter is not necessarily a worse time.
So
Why would it be even maybe a better time? Is it because of those family connections?
the connections, the social connectedness. It's very important to have connections, to find the people, whatever space you're in. You know, it could be church, it could be a club, it could be a support group, but making sure that you have that connectedness. Now, not everybody gets along with their families. I mean, and some people, or they're bereaved themselves and are having difficulty.
And we certainly don't want to minimize people's feelings of stress over the holidays. I mean, it can be a stressful time.
The financial stress, all the stuff to do.
I mean, let's discuss some of the risk factors of suicide and how you can look for that year-round. What are some of the things that your group wants people to know, like, hey, be aware?
Right. Well, there are risk factors and then there are protective factors.
Okay.
And a lot of times they're the same, but one person has it, another one doesn't. So let's just say your childhood.
Okay.
You know, if you had loving, supportive parents, that's different than a person who maybe grew up in an abusive home or where alcoholism was. And so they wouldn't have that family connection.
Yeah.
Other risk factors would be a history of mental health issues, previous suicide attempt. We say that's the #1 thing to look for, is if someone has had a previous attempt, then they are more likely to try it again. We also talk out of both sides of our mouth, and so we say just because you've had that doesn't mean you'll die by suicide.
Right.
You know, so there is hope, there's help, those kinds of things.
Yeah. And so Suicide is considered a serious public health problem by the CDC. More than 49,000 people, died in 2023. September is typically Suicide Awareness Month, but AFSP has a walk in October. Has it already been scheduled for the coming year?
It will be October 3rd of 2026
in Joplin.
And so we're going to try to keep that first Saturday in October. That way people know, and they know how to plan and can predict.
Are there other events AFSP does that folks can get involved in?
Well, we just had our Survivors Day. Of course, you mentioned that in the intro. And so that is always the Saturday before the American Thanksgiving. And it just helps us to come together because we know how difficult the holidays can be. And so we have a support group. We watch a film produced by AFSP, and we try to do some kind of a craft or activity.
How can someone get connected to the organization? Can someone reach out to you, or do they go online? What's the best way for someone who, may have had a loss and need support?
I'm local. I mean, anybody can reach out to me,
there is a Missouri chapter?
There is a Missouri chapter. Go online, look up AFSP Missouri chapter. It will, there's several links. One, you can check on events to see what's coming up. We're in the process of scheduling our virtual trainings for 2026. And you can also, there's a place where you could volunteer.
Excellent.
Depending on what your interests are, we do advocacy, research, support, and education.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jackie Christmas, thank you for sharing your story and giving us such a good advice. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a break. Every year during the AFSP walk, survivors help share the meanings of colored beads worn by those taking part. As we go to break, here's their message.
The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention uses honor beads to show how suicide has touched our lives. We have for you a collaboration of people from all over Missouri to show why we are here. The white bead represents the loss of a child worn by Pam Richardson from Farmington. Pam wears white for her son Matthew.
Hi everybody, my name is Pam and I wear white beads for my son Matthew. It's hard to give just a quick rundown of everything that was so special about him, but I guess his best ability was able to make everybody laugh, and there was never a dull moment when he was around, and we miss him a lot. And this is my son Matthew.
The red bead represents the loss of a spouse worn by Crystal Youngs from Cameron. Crystal wears red for her husband Chad.
Chad was a lineman, a firefighter, an EMT, and a certified diver. He had an infectious smile that would light up a room. He was greatly loved and missed by many.
The gold bead represents the loss of a parent worn by Megan Thompson from Jefferson City. Megan wears gold for her father Randy.
My dad loved racing and loved his family, and we miss him dearly.
The orange bead represents the loss of a sibling worn by Kendra Eads from Cape Girardeau. Kendra wears orange for her brother Jason.
My brother Jason passed away in 2017. That's the same year that we got involved in the Out of the Darkness walk. His kids carried the banner on our local walk that first year, and it really gave us something to focus our grief on and to feel like we were making a difference. We are so grateful to be a part of this community and to help hopefully end suicide. We miss Jason every day. He was full of life and made us all laugh and was a wonderful father and brother and son, and we love him forever.
The purple bead represents the loss of a relative or friend worn by Veronica Foley from Columbia. Veronica wears purple for her friend Brian.
My friend Brian was 40 years old when he passed away 3 years ago. And there's so much you can say about him. He was funny and charming and sweet and caring and giving. And he just was a good friend with a great personality.
The silver bead represents the loss of military or first responder, worn by Brandon Gleason from Dexter. Brandon wears silver for his brother, Sergeant Ryan Sheeter.
My friend, my brother, my sergeant, and my fallen comrade, United States Army Sergeant Ryan Sheeter. I'm coming from Dexter, Missouri today, in his honor, and I walk for him. I wear silver for all military, first responders, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs. I honor my brothers and my sisters.
The green bead represents someone who struggles, worn by Carolyn Bland from Joplin. Carolyn wears green for herself and everyone who struggles.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Bland. I wear green beads, which represent personal struggle or attempt of suicide. I know what it's like to have both active and passive thoughts of suicide. You are not alone. I am here to provide hope, strength, and courage to those who have personal struggles with suicide and have attempted suicide. We are worth fighting for.
The teal bead represents supporting someone who struggles or has attempted, worn by Emily Wartick of St. Louis. Emily wears teal for her father, Dabney.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I wear teal for my father, Dabney. He made multiple attempts in his youth and still struggles with mental illness on a daily basis.
The blue bead represents supporting suicide prevention and awareness, worn by Amanda Sapper from DeSoto.
My name is Amanda Sapper, and we wear blue in support of suicide prevention and awareness. I choose to walk because suicide affects an entire community. And I hope that through our efforts, someday my son is able to view his mental health as no different than his physical health.
Welcome back to Newsmakers, where we are talking about suicide risk factors and prevention. The average number of suicide deaths per day is 135. Suicide affects people of all ages, and in 2023, it was among the top 8 leading causes of death for people ages 10 to 64, according to the Centers for Disease Control. Now, the CDC also reports suicide was the second leading cause of death for younger people ages 10 to 34. That includes college-age students. So joining our conversation to bring focus to that perspective are Emma Hobbs, president of the Green Bandana Project on campus, and Jeanette Eldred, the MSSU Social Work Program Director. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So Emma, tell us, you're a student. Help us understand the stresses on students that might put them at risk of considering suicide. You know, people probably assume it's all about grades, but it can be more than that. Talk to us.
Yeah, so of course the big thing is grades, especially depending on your major. If you're applying for like post-grad, that can be even more bigger stressor. And then also, like, I'm a student athlete, so that in itself can be another stressor, just having to balance a heavy academic and athletic load. Then there's other things as well. Of course, the financial burden. If you're struggling to pay, that's going to be another stressor that you have to deal with. As well as just whenever you first come to college, you're in a completely new environment. For some people, you're away from home. You're having to make new friends, just adjust an entirely new setting, and that can be a really big stressor in itself as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, maybe postgraduate stuff. Students do have to transition off in what we call the real world. How intimidating can that be for a student in, oh my gosh, I've got to find a job when I graduate?
Yeah, so just speaking from personal experience, that is very intimidating. I'm just applying to grad school, so I'm not even having to go into the real world. But then again, just kind of what I talked about previously, that again is a new environment that you're going to have to adjust to. You have to worry about finding a job. Where are you going to live now? Do I have to make new friends now? Just all sorts of stuff like that. That is, again, going to just put you at risk for different types of mental health issues.
Yeah. Anxiety is cited as a mental health concern among college students, along with depression. Yes. What do you feel like leads to anxiety? I mean, we've talked about a number of those stressors.
Yeah.
And do some folks maybe even come to college already anxious?
Yeah, so some can, or some can, kind of like I talked about with those stressors, can develop it just with that really heavy academic load. I know for me, just adjusting to high school versus college academics. That was a big thing. And, you know, some people you'll hear them say, I never even had to study in high school and now I'm in college and I don't know what to do. So that can be a big contributor to anxiety. Again, if you're already having to worry about academics, then you have to worry about how am I going to pay for this? Do I need to start a new job? Just all those things can lead to anxiety.
Yeah. Jeanette, talk to us about what are some of the indicators of depression? I mean, you work with students every day. Are there things that you can notice that might tell you, hey, they're struggling?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Depression really isn't a one-size-fits-all, as we know, right? There could be a range of symptoms, there can be a range of severity, and there could be a range of duration. So in general, I would encourage people to think about what it looks like for them specifically. But some of those indicators could be feelings of hopelessness, increased difficulty in concentrating, making decisions, difficulty that they maybe haven't before with eating, or so maybe weight gain or weight loss, but that could also be contributed to their appetite. Difficulty with sleeping, so maybe oversleeping or undersleeping. It could also just impact our physical body. Difficulty with psychomotor agitation, where we feel a little more keyed up, or just the difficulty of getting out of bed and going and doing those daily activities. Depression can also increase feelings of hopelessness, self-esteem, and could also lead to thoughts of suicide or self-harming behaviors.
Are there other mental health issues that we see frequently around campus? I mean, we've mentioned anxiety, depression. Are there other things that can be of concern?
Absolutely. You know, as you were saying, life is such a transition period for this age group. Even if you're a non-traditional student, it is such a transition. Oftentimes we're caretakers we're working those other things. And so oftentimes you might hear or see or help students get resources for maybe eating disorders, non-suicidal, self-directed self-harming, like cutting or bruising themselves, undiagnosed previously ADHD or learning disorders. The demands in school are so much different that sometimes we can kind of get through high school and not have a formal diagnosis or treatment. And so helping students really get over and get testing, and they go to the disability office, and so to get those accommodation for learning or cognitive disorders, that then we can see the depression and anxiety go down because now they're getting the support services they need.
And it's funny that they might not have realized they had that all through their early academic life, but we have done with the testing office and accommodations with our offices, talked about them. And it is amazing how some people don't realize that, yes, a learning disability is still a disability and you can get accommodations. So that's important to mention. Students have roommates and peers in college. You would think that would make things better and easier, but how much of a problem are those social pressures, Emma?
Yeah, so like you said, it can kind of go both ways. Sometimes you can luck out and you can have really great roommates. You can have that social support, but sometimes you just don't mesh well with your roommates. Then that again can add another level of pressure to you. Then you have to worry about conflicts with your roommates. Perhaps even sometimes like you have a roommate that's up late and then they keep you up, or vice versa. They get up early and they're disrupting your sleep habits, and sleep is so important for your mental health. And then just other things with like social pressures, you could have to deal with peer pressure in college and different things like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we also often hear about alcohol use in college. Can that become obviously then a factor? How significant is substance use in dealing with mental health issues, Jeanette?
Yeah, it could either be something that's already come to college and we've used maybe as fun, but then now it's used also to maybe self-medicate, and that could then, substance abuse can then lead to depression or anxiety, or it could be really that there's some unresolved biological markers for depression, anxiety, bipolar, those types of things, and substances are being used to help mitigate those symptoms. And so it's important to have some accurate assessments so that you can get the correct treatment of, you know, are they together? Is one causing the other? Those types of things.
Yeah. Emma, tell us about the Green Bandana Project program for those who don't know how it works and somebody who might want to help. So what is behind the Green Bandana?
Yeah, so this is actually a nationwide organization, but it's a mental health initiative focused on ending the stigma surrounding mental health and also to raise awareness about mental health and suicide prevention. So those who are members, they get a green bandana that they tie around their backpack. And then that basically signals that they are a safe space for someone to come up to and talk to them, and that they have resources that they can guide someone to get help.
So it doesn't have to be another student, it can be faculty, it can be anyone.
We have several faculty that are a part of it, and then of course we try to do students because a lot of times people may feel more comfortable talking to peer-to-peer interaction.
Right. So what kind of training is there for folks who might want to be part of the Green Bandana Project?
Yeah, so one thing that we try to do every year at the beginning is we'll have one of our counselors come and help. And so basically we just tell people on campus and our members, we encourage them to attend, and we just basically explain to them like what to do if someone comes up to you, and also how to initiate conversations with someone that you may notice is struggling. And then we'll actually do like some role playing and practice those conversations, so that way if someone does come up to you, you're ready to have that conversation with them.
I mean, mental health is talked about more now than in the past. Hopefully that stigma is lessening. Let's discuss some of the resources, and a big one is 988. So what are some of the resources you want to share with young people, and how important is this like 988 hotline? Because I know it's not just for people in serious crisis. It can be just if you need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, it can be, like you said, it's not just for crises, it can be for anyone experiencing some mental health thing, or it could not even be you, but if you notice someone, then you can also call or text that number too if you feel more comfortable with texting. But then another thing I would just try to really emphasize, like people my age, like in college, is that at least for sure on our campus, I'm sure other campuses do the same thing, but we have resources for you here that are free. Like our counselors, they want you to come and talk to them, like they want to help you. So just emphasizing that we have those here on campus, but then also there are several community resources that you can reach out to, and just like online things that you feel more comfortable with.
Yeah. So Jeanette, you mentioned to me that a consistent assessment. So what does that mean, and how often should someone sort of do a mental health check?
Yeah, I love that question. I think it really starts with us first. We are the experts of our own body and understanding what it's like to live in our own experience. Or that's part of the support of having an assessment, is to learn those skills of how to understand your personal symptoms. And so in general, though, if somebody has experienced those indicators that you talked about and that we talked about in depression, and it's keeping them either from doing their daily activities that they normally have, and or that those are persistent over a course of a minimum of 2 weeks, so 2 weeks and starting to go into that third week, then that really should be an assessment, either with their primary care physician, maybe going over to our Missouri Southern Health Center, to the counseling office, maybe even calling 988 to just get some feedback saying, I'm seeing these symptoms, what should be some resources for assessment? Because sometimes it might be a medication change, it might be a need for some new skills. There's lots of new things that you haven't had to experience before until you come to college, and so it might be being able to be linked to a mental health provider or a case manager to help you learn those skills, coping skills. And so I can't emphasize enough, the assessment really is when in your own body you're saying, I am not functioning in a way that leads me to where I need to be, then it's worth reaching out.
Excellent. Great advice. Hopefully folks will reach out to you for the Green Bandana Project. Thank you so much, Jeanette. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this edition of Newsmakers. If you know someone at risk, seek out resources like the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Centers for Disease Control, and others, and make everyone aware of 988, the mental health hotline. Thanks to our guest, and thank you for watching.